everyone, welcome to StudyIQ English. We all understand by now that the war between US and Israel versus Iran involving entire West Asia began officially on 28th February 2026. But today, we know that it has only been intensifying. We know that the supreme leader of Iran, Mr. Ayatollah Khamenei, was killed. And then it was followed by the election of new supreme leader, Mr. Mujtaba Khamenei. But Iran has refused to give up. And even under the new supreme leader, Iran has continued its commitment to asymmetric warfare. That means saturation strategy of war, overwhelming enemies' missile interception capacities. We also understand that the area around Persian Gulf is not safe even today as US. Now today morning, something very interesting happened. Mr. Trump was quoted by one of the news channels as saying that although US understands that Iran will not surrender, but US may keep on attacking the Karg Island that's in the Persian Gulf, which we have spoken about as a major, in fact, largest oil export terminal of Iran. So Mr. Trump says that we may keep on attacking the Karg Island for fun. And this is a quoted statement from him, just for fun. So now this just kind of reminds us that the war is here to stay, and the war has already caused about 2,000 deaths. Desalinization plants are getting hit. Hospitals and other civilian infrastructure is in bad state right now. People are dying, and the worst thing is that the oil supply chain, all because of Strait of Hormuz closure, has been totally disrupted. Many countries like India, China and many others are looking at the prospect of extremely high price of oil barrels. Now for India, a country that is importing more than 88% of our entire crude necessity, this has become a very critical situation, but unfortunately there is no peace on the horizon. Now in one of the latest statements of Mr. Trump, just as he said that we may keep continuing to attack the Karg Island for fun, which is a very misplaced statement indeed, and people are wondering what does it even mean. At the same time, Mr. Trump has also demanded very strictly from all the NATO members and countries like Japan, South Korea, even China for that matter, that they must immediately start sending their troops and military equipment to the Strait of Hormuz. He says that it is the responsibility of all the countries in the world to pressurize Iran, to keep attacking Iran and to open up Hormuz, because about 30% of total global crude, all the important supply chains are passing from this narrow strategic choke point. But the fact is, no country made that promise. Yes, no country agreed to send any troop to Iran because nobody wants this war to become a World War III. But today, another new development. Iran, which has from the beginning put up a very brave face in the front of Israel and US, has now introduced and used for the first time the Sejjil-2 missile. These are the Sejjil-2 missiles. They are also called as dancing missiles. Now, for the first time, these have been used in the war by Iran. Let's remember, this is a two-stage solid fuel medium-range ballistic missile known as MRBM, also called dancing missile. Now, this is rattling US again, that not just is that Iran is not surrendering, but Iran is introducing newer and more dangerous weapons in the war. So we are talking about Iran's new Sejjil-missile. What has happened? Now, for the first time, Iran has used these missiles in the war. We know that the combined operation of US and Israel were known as Operation Roaring Lion and Operation Epic Fury, but these were met with enthusiasm from Iran's Operation True Promise. Because Iran is not the country that believes in surrendering. Iran believes in launching too many cheap drones and ballistic missiles at the enemy. After all, one day the enemy's interceptor system may become weak. Plus, we also know Iran's axis of resistance across various West Asian countries. You can talk about Lebanon, Hezbollah. You can talk about Palestinian area, Hamas, Iraq militia, Yemen, Houthi. So Iran has that terror network also which it sponsors to support itself. And now comes the Sejjil missile. For the first time that's being introduced in this war. It's a very special weapon. It is known as medium range ballistic missile MRBM, but the range is overwhelming. The range is about 2000 kilometers. and the weight is about 23,600 kg. It uses a solid fuel. That means unlike the older missiles that were depending on liquid fuel, for example, the Shahab series missile, now this missile, Sejjil-2 or the dancing missile, takes very little time and it completely decapitates the enemy immediately. Using solid fuel means faster launch. It also means much harder for the enemies to detect before the launch is actually made. So a lot of people were saying that Iran has been isolated as a country in the war because even the supporters of Iran like Russia and like China were only giving a verbal support, but then by introducing this dancing missile technique, Iran has proven the world otherwise. It's barely alone. It has a very advanced defense system. Now, looking at the capacity of these weapons, we must mention the cluster munitions. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, why are we even talking about cluster munition? Because it was long back, that's in 2008, that the Convention on completely prohibiting cluster munitions was signed up. And today, if you talk about as of 2022-2023, there are about 120 plus countries who have signed up for this convention which prohibits the use of cluster munition. But now, once again, it is being spoken about in this war because cluster munitions are the capabilities of some ballistic missiles to carry many cluster warheads. So rather than carrying one large explosion, these missiles then carry out multiple but smaller explosions in a large number of area in the form of throwing bomblets. Because this gives you a capacity of addressing a larger area, today all the West Asian nations are in threat. Now let's not forget that West Asia is not just an oil-rich landscape, it is a place where there are multiple military and air bases of US. An example could be the Al Udeid air base in Qatar. Today Iran is retaliating by hitting out at all the West Asian countries, not because it has a personal enmity with them, because it has to revenge US, and this is the safest way of reacting. But now when Iran has weapons like cluster munition that can target a larger area and the new dancing missile, naturally all these other countries are feeling very unsafe right now because they used to depend on US, Mr. Trump, for giving them security guarantee. But we have seen now how these areas including UAE, Kuwait, Lebanon, Qatar, in fact even isolated places like Cyprus, Lebanon, all of these have been attacked. And where was US? So we couldn't see them getting any protection, and now they are very afraid because these bomblets are killing soldiers. They are attacking civilian infrastructure, armored vehicle, at the same time also the airport infrastructure, oil terminals, LNG, LPG terminals, all of them have been targeted, and they can be in future targeted through this smart technology. And then let's talk about split warheads. Now, certain missiles that Iran is using is also capable of carrying split warhead. That means the missile divides into several larger warheads before it starts descending on the enemy territory, and this increases the number of impact that one single missile can cause on the enemy infrastructure. It also makes missile defense systems much harder to work. Now, let's not forget that US was boasting of systems like Patriot, systems like THAAD. At the end of the day, let's understand this is an asymmetrical war. No matter how many missile interceptors US and Israel bring in the war, we understand these are expensive equipments. They are time-taking equipments. They take time to be manufactured. But what Iran is doing, ballistic missiles, cheap drones are easy to manufacture, and the cost per launch is easier. It's much lesser. So it becomes an asymmetrical war. And how long will the enemy keep on retaliating, intercepting? And that's the Iranian idea of warfare, because now multiple objects cannot be intercepted at once. Enemy's missile defense system is also not very successful in combating such technologies, and this is where Iran is having an edge. Now, why cluster weapons are getting controversial? Of course, because I just said in 2008, these were actually prohibited. These were banned. Nobody could use cluster munition. And majority of countries, I said about 120 countries have actually joined this cluster munition ban convention. But then the controversy is that many big countries like China, say for example Russia and US, are still not clear about this treaty. They still do not openly endorse this treaty. And that's the problem here, because cluster munition are very dangerous. Not only can they cause destruction over a widespread area, that means civilians are not safe. And when you attack civilians directly or indirectly, like what US has been doing in the case of Iran's very famous island in the news, Qasem Island, the arrow-shaped island in Strait of Hormuz, Persian Gulf, then we are saying that all this is a breakdown of Geneva Convention, international humanitarian law. Yes, but it can be done by using cluster munition. At the same time, many bomblets that do not explode and suddenly, unexpected, they remain on the ground, they act like landmines and they can burst out anytime later. That means the area becomes very dangerous, and it is because of that that there are so many countries, as I said, about 120, who have prohibited the use of these. But at the same time, there are major military powers who refuse to sign that. So whether it's climate agreements like Paris Agreement 2015, whether it's nuclear arrangements like Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty or Comprehensive Ban Treaty CTBT, or today the Cluster Munition Ban Agreement 2008, there are always the big powers that do not sign for the treaty, and that means laws are there, but they just hang in the limbo. There is no real implementation of these laws. So that's what's making news right now. So do remember this new Sejjil-2 missile, also called dancing missile. A quick practice question. With reference to Sejjil-missile and cluster munition, look at these statements. 1. The Sejjil-2 missile developed by Iran is a solid fuel medium-range ballistic missile with a range of about 2,000 kilometers. Now, some articles might give you the figure of 1900, but that's okay. 1900, 2000, both of these are fine. Second, solid fuel ballistic missile generally needs a longer preparation time for launch compared to liquid fuel. We have given an example of liquid fuel 1 in the article. Don't forget in this video. Third, cluster munitions disperse. That means they send multiple smaller explosives over a wide area, and some unexploded sub-munitions may remain on the ground after a long time, which act like landmines in the future. So which of these statements here are valid? You can share your answer in the comment box. Those of you who want more details, more such information, can join our Telegram channel. It's a growing community of UPSC students where we keep sharing interesting facts, StudyIQ initiatives, and many more practice questions. And our quick reminder for those of you who are preparing and working hard for UPSC 27 and 28 programs, kindly remember that we are launching a very, very humble price right now as a part of our sale program. Only at $39.99, more than 1 year of complete GS coverage, answer, essay writing, news, current affairs, books, materials, everything available here as a part of our GS Foundation Resolution course. And to log in and to apply for the course, if you use my code, that's SPLIVE, you get further discount. Do remember, batch is beginning on 26th March. You have some time, but you must book your slot before it's over. And for 28 also, well begun is half done at a price of only $29,999, more than 1.5 years of thorough hands holding, including one-on-one mentorship. Okay, that's important. Also, the kind of guidance that includes dynamic and static portions together, continuing up to basic personality test guidance, that is interview guidance as well. Enroll now, use code SPLIVE. Remember, the batch is beginning 26th March. Thank you so much.